how the Supreme Court was created, how we see the Supreme Court today, and a bunch of wild-eyed liberals who think that they know what the Supreme Court is and what it should do. All of this and more on the Self-Evident Podcast. Good afternoon, morning, all things.
Good day.
Good day.
Good day, good sir.
Good day, matey. Welcome to the Self-Evident Podcast. You got Massey, you got Mike.
Oi.
Oi. We're here from down under. I don't even know if that's the right accent. I probably threw a little German in there, a little Irish.
5 different countries in one accent.
I threw a little Oriental in there. That's
Oh, it's so good. It's such a good accent. You sound just American.
So, welcome to the Self-Evident Podcast. Again, you got Mass and Mike. Yo, we are back in studio. So sorry I have not been here, guys. I've been traveling, but I'm not sorry about that because we need to do all of those things and more.
He's out doing important things.
And he's not.
No.
That's ridiculous. He's been holding down the fort, so thank you, Mikey. So, guys, go on to theselfevidenttruth.com. Get your guys' information on there. Sign up for our newsletter. Get on that website. Also, sign up for our monthly sponsorship program.
Yes.
Our Torchbearer program. We sent a really cool email out. We sent an email yesterday, which was awesome. Yep. And it just recapped Nevada. It was really, really neat. Shalene did some really cool things for us, some testimonials. Thank you so much for that. And also, too, we have a text-to-give option. If you guys want to give to the ministry, you guys are the ones sending us out. So what is that text-to-give number, fellas?
Okay, so you're going to text GIVE to 772-242-0299. 772-242-0299. That's the word GIVE.
Text the word GIVE. So, guys, thank you so much for sending us out to Nevada. We just went to North Carolina. We're going to South Carolina this next weekend. The weekend after, we're going to Missouri. 2 weeks after that, we're going to Ohio. So we're some busy. We're some busy bees over here.
'Tis the season.
'Tis the season. We gotta keep our butts moving. We got a lot of souls to save, a lot of that stuff to catch up on. Also, too, if you have not subscribed to our blogs, please do that on theselfevidenttruth.com. Get yourself a T-shirt, get your merch. It helps us keep doing what we're doing, as well as we're coming up with some really new curriculums and new things like that this year. So please be on the lookout for that. And there's all these other things that Mike's doing. He's doing a daily thing now. I was going to do the daily thing. I don't have time for that yet. Anywho, we'll get there. We'll get there. But I've never been one for liberal or conservative because to me, both want government to be their God. They both want government to be daddy, right? The left says, I don't want you to control me yet. Give me the money to do what I want to do and go sin and do what I want to do and do these crazy things, right? Take over farms, take over production, be socialist. The right says, we don't want government involved in anything, but government better pass laws to make sure my moralities. And so in a lot of ways, both sides, and I'm not saying every liberal and every conservative. Please don't take it that way. It's the majority of the viewpoints, right? There are many conservatives who believe in the more liberal side of things as far as classical libertarian, I just want liberty, get out of my business, let me do what I do. There are liberals as well who are not on the crazy train. They're not progressives, right? What we're speaking about today is there is a real thing going on with these progressive liberals that is insane. And they've accused us conservatives of conspiracy theories, of undermining the democracy, which we're not, we're a republic, undermining America, we're Christian nationalists, we're all these things because of what we believe. And, you know, President Trump's been in hot water since before he's been president.
Yeah, as soon as he started running, there was always something that, you know, just totally disqualified him from being president.
And the liberal doesn't even take into account that you can't see everything this dude's been brought to charges on. He's beaten. They had to force this $350 million.
Right. Well, they didn't even bring it to trial. The judge just slammed the gavel and said, no, you're guilty. Now we're going to figure out how much you owe.
Right. And so there was really no trial, especially the whole impeachment process when they were doing the whole Russia collusion thing. How many things, the dossiers and all that, proved nothing. Nothing. So now they're coming after him, trying to impeach him for January 6th, when clearly the guy had nothing to do with January 6th. He's got tweets saying, hey, be peaceful, but they're still coming after him because that's what they want to do. They want to keep you in confusion, right? And the right, the conservative who's following this, falls right into the trap.
No.
You know, so what we're doing here is we're just going to call out the stupidity of it all. Can I say it that way?
Yeah, go for it.
Right? We're calling out the stupidity, and especially
you got
one.
better words than I do.
Yeah, the liberal. And I need you to be you, but I'm back in the game here. I'm trying to warm up, guys.
Yeah, you're good, man.
Let's learn of some Supreme Court and the Constitution. But first, can we have some fun at the expense of liberals who melted down?
Salt production. Salt mining.
Slide number 1. Mike, you can take it away. Keith Olbermann.
He's my favorite. I think Keith Olbermann is my favorite of all time because the man is so unbelievably unhinged.
He's deranged.
He's like, and there is a part of me that goes, Lord, never let me get to that point where I'm that deranged and unhinged. So what did he do? Look, this is not the first time he has called out for the dissolution of the Supreme Court, because that would go well. And nothing protects democracy like getting rid of an entire branch of government.
And who would he leave it in the hands to?
Right. The president.
Think about it. You get rid of that, a Republican gets elected. You just got rid of the checks and balance. You dummy.
Right.
You dummy.
Because it didn't rule in your favor, now all of a sudden we've got to get rid of it. Take your ball and run home, right? The first time, a couple of years ago, there was some gun law stuff, went into the Supreme Court, and he, of course, had to make some comment about it. And this time, the Supreme Court has betrayed democracy. Its members, including Jackson, Kagan, and Sotomayor, have proved themselves inept at reading comprehension.
Because they don't have degrees in law and understanding of the law and the bar. And they clearly don't know more than you, Keith.
TV commentator, Supreme Court justice.
Just saying. We're not saying...
I'm just making comparisons.
Right. We're not saying they always get it right.
No.
But I just got to throw this out there. A 9-0 ruling, shut up. Okay.
Right. And to say they have no reading comprehension begs the question, why aren't you on that bench? Come on, Keith. Why aren't you sitting on the Supreme Court justice
You know what else
bench?
it proves? It proves it's agenda driven. If you can get 9 justices in a room saying, look, this is Congress's call. And even Sotomayor said it's not as simple as her counterparts had written the opinion on.
Yeah.
Right? They were saying they're known liberals, right? They're saying there's no case here.
Right.
This will destroy any kind of future election if we start doing this. Because then the states can just at whim pick people off.
You even got the one who couldn't define man and woman going, no, we can't do this. You couldn't even win her, bro.
You couldn't get her to do it.
You couldn't get her to do it. So I'm thinking maybe you don't understand what you're talking about, Keith. Anyways, he continued because, of course, the man can't shut up. Said, and collectively, the court has shown itself to be corrupt and illegitimate. It must be dissolved.
Because we're going to listen to you, Keith.
Yeah. And then he talked about like tears and urine and something like that.
Called them whores.
Yeah. Yeah. At some point he did. I can't believe I didn't include that.
Yeah, I have the tweet. He literally
deleted it?
No.
Or no? It's still there?
It's still here.
What do you say?
Here. Oh, sorry. Let me pull it up quick.
So while he's pulling that up, this man has never shied away from saying completely asinine, one-sided, partisan, hackery, extremist stuff. And it blows my mind that he thinks this is a logical course to take to step against 9 Supreme Court justices and to say they're all illegitimate. They're making this illegitimate ruling, saying they have no reading comprehension, and calling them corrupt. You just called your favorite Supreme Court justices corrupt because they didn't rule the way you wanted them to.
Here, so he said first this, just remember, conservatives, if Supremes now give Trump his presidential immunity, it's a different case.
Yeah. The immunity case.
That will immediately make Biden a monarch. That's what we've turned the presidency into anyways, dude.
Right. He's already a monarch.
What, you're not decrying this with executive orders and bull crap like that when we can just create drone strikes out of thin air.
Right.
This is how inept they are. Like, you can't do that. You can't create a monarchy out of the Constitution. That's the purpose of the Supreme Court. And dude, fine, get rid of congressional immunity. Then every one of them should be prosecuted for their bullcrap.
And that I was thinking about that the other day. If you get rid of this idea of immunity, which there is a process that y'all seem to forget, because what you want is to just bring it through the courts and get some partisan hack judge to rule against the president and throw him in jail. The whole reason for the immunity idea is so that that doesn't happen. But guess what? You have a method. It's through Congress.
That's right.
Now, you may say, well, Congress is never going to do it. Well, that must mean that there was something not egregious enough for Congress to act. Now, I argue, yes, it's I don't even want to say a fault. It may be a weakness in the system, because we can watch what Trump has done for the left or what Biden has done for the right and say, well, Congress isn't made up correctly of the right number of people, so we'll never get something passed. Okay, I get it.
Yet they still pass crap.
Yet they still pass crap, right? This is to protect that position of becoming a political sledgehammer, which now impeachment has become, which impeachment was that method. And that's what they forget, is you're not immune from impeachment. They tried to impeach him twice. Succeeded, supposedly.
Yeah, he was impeached, but he wasn't removed.
Exactly. You impeach, and then it goes to the Senate to convict. Guess what? The Senate chose not to convict on either case.
That's right.
So it must mean the Senate did not see it as egregious enough as you did in order to remove. So this whole idea of like, they're immune, they can become a monarch. They're gaslighting you.
They really are, dude. And also, too, Bill Clinton was also impeached but never removed, which... he's the one who desecrated the White House, right? And Trump did his things, and nothing to that level of literally desecrating the honor of that office by literally sleeping with another woman in that office while you're holding office in that tenure. But somehow he's some kind of darling because he chants and touts your name. That is Machiavellian, right? So here's this last tweet that he did. He said, if the political whores on the court are overruling quite explicit language in the Constitution to benefit one politician, that's not what they're doing. Gaslighting. Your separation of powers died a long time ago. I don't know if you've noticed this, Keith, but the court's been used as a battering ram against rights for years. The presidency has been doing his own thing for years. Right? Really. So what he's saying here is there's explicit language against the president for doing what he did. Okay, that may be true. Let's say he did create insurrection. That's Congress's job to prosecute. That's all the Supreme Court said. It's not up to the states.
Right. And the minority, because I want to get into this because this is really important to understand, A, the energy of the movement moving forward. Where are we going in a couple of years from now? But also, everybody's trying to grab power. Now, if you need to turn on your power, you need to call Energy Ops LLC.
Bingo!
Charleston, South Carolina, I'm talking to you. Energy Ops LLC. Look, faith-driven, family values, God-loving, small business. They love to help customers and do well. He is coming down. He is coming down for us. I had talked to him the other day. He was super excited. That's the length he's willing to go to help y'all out, right? So the phone number, 843-263-1724. 843-263-1724, energyops.us.
We're excited to see you, Michael.
I can't wait, dude. Okay.
I have work for you to do at my house, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, I got one light that went out that made the room go out, that made this whole wall of outlets go out. I'm like, what is going on? Please help me.
All right. Now, I want to get into the specifics of this whole insurrection thing because you're hearing a lot of different information. You heard 9-0, but then there are truly pundits on MSNBC saying, well, it was really a 5-4 vote, because the 4 dissented. And we're going to get into all that. I want to clarify all of it. So what happened? The court ruled with an unsigned opinion, which they do this when it's a really politically contentious ruling. They did it for Boer v. Gush.
Borgush.
Borgush.
Borgush. That sounds like a hot dish your grandma made for the potlucks at
Grandmama,
church.
can you make that great Borgush dish again? Oh, I love when you make Borgush.
It's like a noodly, slimy thing. Borgush. Although I miss those goulashes, y'all.
Oh, dude.
Man, I miss those.
Midwest goulash. Oh. Now we're talking. Anyways,
now we're talking.
so these unsigned opinions, it's basically so that way all of the political heat doesn't get pointed at one person. It's kind of them all standing together going, no, we agree on this. The majority, in the opinion, wrote that only Congress could do it through an act of legislation in terms of removing Trump from the ballot. So picture this. All 9 agreed a state can't just haul off and remove somebody from the ballot. 5 of them wrote in the opinion that only Congress through legislation could remove Trump. 4 of them disagreed with that point and said, no, you can't go that narrow because that removes other methods. We'll get into all that. But that's why these MSNBC pundits are saying, well, it's really a 5-4 vote. If it were really a 5-4 vote, 4 would have said no.
Yeah, we dissent.
We dissent. It was a 9-0 vote that states cannot just remove a person who is a candidate for presidency from a ballot. They can't do it themselves.
Right.
Somebody else has to do
Right.
it. Right.
Right. Because, and this is where it gets really, really tricky with states' rights. It gets really, really tricky because remember, the president is not supposed to have more power over the states, right?
Right.
So let the federal government do what it's supposed to do in its own cabinet, bench, seats, all that. That's what the process was for. The states have the right to vote or not vote for that candidate.
Right.
If that candidate is an insurrectionist and he's terrible, well, then tell your state, do your best, get out there and don't vote for the jerk.
Right.
That's an insurrectionist. I'm saying if he, which we know that's not true. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
The whole point is states then would take it upon themselves to upend every single election they can. So the founders were like, okay, how does this work? Why leave it in the hands of the federal government on this issue? It's because the federal government, the president is the presider over the federation, what we've created, right? This umbrella. Let the federal government handle that so the states don't have to think about that. That's the only reason they did that. States have more authority, though, in the sense of making laws for their own states, making sure that they can run, what would be the word, in liberty, efficiently, all these other things. They have the right not to vote for the guy they think should be on the ballot. You can have every opinion you want. Shouldn't even be on the ballot. But he's on the ballot because he's running for president. So don't vote for the guy. That's the liberty. That's the liberty side of the vote.
Yes. And I think you make a really good point of people forget the big picture. What was the original setup of the federal government? Which federation.
Right.
They stuck away from the word national because that implied nation, and they stuck with federal, as in a federation of states, which isn't it funny? We call other nations states all the time. They use the word specifically. It was this idea of basically sovereign lands coming to, and I hate using this example, but it's just like the EU was originally fashioned to be.
Right.
Independent nations coming together and they have a governing body so they can help coordinate each other. That's what it was meant to be. So then you take this president who is, I love you use the word presiding over the federation of the states.
He's the face to the world.
He's the face to the world of this federation of states. This is why the 17th Amendment makes me so mad, because the 17th Amendment was supposed to be the states as bodies choosing their ambassadors to the federation of the states, to the government that's seeing over the states, right? Then they put it into a popular vote. That's a national thing. That's just a one nation thing, right? That's why I think it should only be in the hands of Congress. It's a federal election for a federal position in which the federal government is overseeing over the states.
Exactly.
That a state judge or a state secretary of state should not be able to make that decision of, well, we're just removing this candidate from the ballot.
That's exactly it. This is why the separation was important. And allow me to explain it even this way. The federal government was never intended to have the power that it has today. That's the problem with most of these pundits on either side, is that they truly think that that president has more authority than is given credit. That's why they're afraid of Trump. That's why the left or the right is afraid of Biden and what he can do, because we've given this kind of blanket authority to the president that he can just do what he wants at whim. There's some checks there and balances, right? I mean, but for the most part, they can just write legislation at will and do what they do. That's why guys like Keith Olbermann get so afraid and frustrated, and Rachel Madcow and all these other things. That's why they get so mad, is because for some reason they've now, and it's all teaching and indoctrination in colleges and all these other things, and a lack of true understanding of the government as a whole and how we established it. He does not have the authority that you think he has over the states. That's not the intended purpose of the president. He wasn't supposed to be a part of your lives. They weren't supposed to come in and directly income tax the citizen. They weren't supposed to, they weren't supposed to be involved in all your schooling. They weren't supposed to be involved in how much money you make. They weren't supposed to do any of that stuff. And we've allowed it to happen and continue to happen. So now you're like, see, but Trump, he's going to make things worse and blah, blah, blah. And that's why they get so crazy, is because we've given him this authority of king. He's saying it's going to be a monarchy. It already is.
It is. And I was watching something the other day where they were kind of doing the whole compare contrast between Rome and America. And you got to remember, the fall of Rome happened over hundreds of years. This seems to be going fairly fast. But they had that moment where it turned from a republic to an empire, right? To where it's no longer a head of a republic, but now it's an emperor. And they were saying they think that moment for America was really 1913 with the 16th Amendment, the direct income tax, the Federal Reserve, all of this. Why? Because now all of a sudden the federal government is taking your money from you as a citizen and then blackmailing you as a state.
Yeah. Whereas back in the day, we'd have to bring our money to the coffers. They're not just taking it. Now we're giving coin to the king is what we're doing.
Yeah. Instead of us paying to the state and the states apportioning it back into the federal government to fund what they needed to fund.
Exactly.
Now it's the federal government standing outside your door saying, give us our money. It was a whole different system that this income
100%.
tax ruined, right? Now, this system was ruining itself in different ways before the income tax, but I think I do agree that like the income tax was kind of that dividing line.
It really was.
And now we're on a monarchy.
Yeah, and two, like past presidents, I get it. And Jefferson was really cool about progression and time and things change.
Yeah.
So we have to be able to adapt to that change with the Constitution. I totally agree with that. I know for a fact, reading all of his works and his life's work itself, the body of work, he did not intend for the federal government. He did not mean that to mean that the federal government have carte blanche authority over the states.
Right.
Because he loved liberty and individualism. He would have been okay, in my opinion, right? Just reading his works. He would have been okay with, look, you want to be gay? Okay, whatever. Like and I'm not saying he would have been okay with being gay. I'm not saying he would have been cool with it.
He understood individual liberty, individual rights.
I've heard quotes of and I've never found him, but people have said he said quotes that he would castrate gay. I don't know. I've never found him, so I don't know that to be true. I think he believed in liberty. People are going to sin. People are going to do bad things. He also believed in the freedom of religion. Go out there and create a society that you guys see as important. Bring the kingdom of heaven on earth. Samuel Adams talked about it. John Adams talked about it. There was a real sense of liberty. You're going to go out and sin and do bad things. Just don't go sin against each other. Don't go steal property. Don't all that. Liberty. So then it empowered the Christian to go, well, if I got liberty to go preach and not without prosecution, yay. So let's go preach the gospel. Then the federal government happened. Then they started amping up on the gas. Then they started doing, Lincoln, like that people call him the greatest Republican in history. I don't know. I'm really tossed up on
he pulled
some of the federal the authority he took to do what he did.
He pulled some really oppressive moves.
Now, the whole emancipation, all that stuff's great, but there's some other things he did. I'm like, I don't know. And then 1913 happens. Mm-hmm. Then you silence the churches with 501c3s, supposedly. right? So all it is an encroachment on the rights of the people. All the federal government has ever done since literally the 1840s and on has been encroaching on the rights of the people. We say earlier than that, but I'm talking about by legislation, by straight up, not, and at least John Adams was rebuked by his cabinet. Don't do that stuff.
Right.
Here, it's just, well, if that's what the president says, what it is, we call it Obamacare. We call it Biden care. We call it Bidenomics. We call it, you know what I mean? Like, somehow he's got the carte blanche authority over our economy, over our insurances, over how we can live our lives. They could shut down your business and your church. What the heck? That is not America. And that's where I get upset, is that these guys like Keith, deranged folks, demonically driven folks, are getting you and gaslighting you into believing that the federal government is somehow going to get destroyed by a Trump when they don't even realize it's already being destroyed by the people they have in office already. What is Trump going to do differently than Biden's already done? You know what Trump's going to do? He's going to improve the economy. You know, he gets elected, bam, there goes the economy. Why? Trust. People have trust in economies like that. They want a leader. Global governments are not like us. China ain't like us. They rule with an iron fist. I don't like it. I think it's tyrannical.
They actually have departments of the Communist Party in businesses. Like, they set aside an office in businesses, especially the major businesses, where a Communist Party representative is there to ensure everything goes according to plan.
100%. 100%. So
like
you got
playing the strings.
You got China. You have Korea. You've got Japan, Africa, Egypt, Iraq, Iran, Russia. I mean, all these nations, the EU, I'm sorry, all these nations, right? Then you have South America and how they run their things. You got Mexico, you got Canada. You have America, right? For some reason, you have to think that how we do our elections, the entire globe is affected. When Trump got in office, dude, there was some kind of like a belief like this. He wasn't playing games, dude.
Yeah.
You got to give it to him. The guy stood on the world stage and said, I'm not taking your bull crap. I'm not taking your bull crap. You keep doing that stuff, we're pulling funding, dude. You got it? We don't need wars over here. There was almost like a sense of, dang, you know what I mean? Take that thing on.
And whether you liked him or not on the global stage, he stood his ground and he put forward what he needed to. And the thing was, like, people could trust that how do I say it? They could trust where he was going. Even if they didn't like it, they could trust where he was going, because where he was going was America's interest, but it wasn't a dominate the rest of the world interest. It wasn't this whole like,
it was almost like a leave me alone.
Yes, it was truly like, go do your own crap. I don't care,
and
as long as you don't affect me.
Yep.
You know?
And we're not going to fund it if you want to do something stupid.
Right.
So don't mess with us, right? So there's those aspects of the president. To round it all out, to come back to the case, this is why political pundits that are the commentators are not really in government, they're just commentators. This is why they do this, is because they truly believe the federal government has more authority than the Constitution gives them. They believe that for some reason, Trump is going to destroy America by himself, when they don't even realize a spineless Congress has destroyed America. Our institutions that we've allowed to be run amok by all this teaching bullcrap has destroyed America. For years, our states in their ineptitude have destroyed America. We've destroyed the image of America itself. That's why we exist. That's why Chris Ann Hall exists in her ministry and her husband's ministry. That's why guys like Bill Federer in the American Minute exist. That's why Wall Builders exists. Institute on the Constitution exists. FRC exists. Liberty Counsel exists. We're out to bring back the originality of what the founders intended. Not the sinful stuff, not the slave stuff, not that bullcrap. We're talking about liberty for all people. That's why we exist, is to teach you and to train you how the federal government and state governments should operate. If we do that, then we're on the same page together. Then we don't have these political pundits trying to interpret the Constitution they want to because they're on the left, and the right interpreting it the way they want to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. How much of this, and
Pay attention.
Here's the question. What time are we at, actually?
49.
We've gone for 49 minutes?
No. We started at like
okay.
8:20.
Okay. I don't want to go too long, but I do kind of want to get into the specifics
Please do.
of this.
I went off on a tangent, folks.
No,
I'm
it's all
back.
good.
Sorry, my mind is going. I had coffee.
I think we really got to talk about this whole 14th Amendment side of things.
Let's do it.
I can't stand the 14th Amendment.
Me neither.
You
Dave Benner wrote a book, The Incorporation Doctrine. Dave Benner, Benner. Plug for my boy. That book is incredible. It's like this thick, super thin. You can get it on Amazon. The 14th Amendment and the Incorporation Doctrine.
Yeah.
Just to get more further reading.
And if you look at the 14th Amendment, to me, it's really vague. It's been abused. I think it was hastily written, and it was too narrowly focused on a situation to where now we're trying to interpret vastly different situations by it. Now, Mike, what do you mean? In Section 3, this is the whole insurrection clause.
Right.
Now, guys, I want you to throw up this slide 2, CNN. This is how CNN gives its readers Section 3. Pay very close attention to the ... All right? They say, the amendment's key provision, Section 3, says in part, no person shall ... hold any office ... under the United States ... who have previously taken an oath ... to support the Constitution of the United States shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. Now, you, as a normal CNN reader, yes, our listeners and viewers are totally normal CNN readers. If you're just a normal CNN reader and you're not paying attention, you're what Rush Limbaugh would call the low information voter, you're going to think, oh, so no person shall hold any office under the United States if they've engaged in insurrection. Huh, I'm told Trump committed insurrection.
This is a good point, Mike.
That's solid and settled. Why is Trump being put in office? Why can't they take him off the ballot? Do you see the road they just walked you down? This is why you don't trust media like them. Because they're subtle in how they do it, and they're going to deceive you, not by the words that they necessarily say, but by the words they don't say.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Now, we're going to read Section 3 in its entirety. Keep the slide up because I want people to compare how much they left out. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president, or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state, who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States, that one matters, or as a member of any state legislature, or as an executive or judicial officer of any state, to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of two-thirds of each house, remove such disability.
Which they removed.
Right. So, do you notice how much CNN cut out? Because this matters. This matters. And this is where people could say, well, Mike, you say it's vague, but it's not because it's very specific. It's very specific, but at the same time, it's kind of vague in its specificity because is the president an officer or is he not? That's the big argument happening right now. Now, this is what the ruling said from the Supreme Court justices. Section 3 disqualifies only those who served in specific enumerated positions, including as an officer of the United States. The president is not such an officer. The Anderson respondents, in other words, the people bringing the case, rely on the Constitution's occasional reference to the president as holding an office, but by its terms, Section 3 does not apply to anyone who held an office. It applies specifically to those people who served as an officer of the United States, and that term of art, read in constitutional context as recognized by scholarly sources like Justice Story, does not include the president. In other words, they're saying the president is not considered an officer under the description of Section 3. That matters because a lot of people are going out and saying, well, he's an officer and it says officer, and so therefore he committed insurrection, and so throw him out. The ruling also stated the president's authority is not limited by a specific statutory duty, nor is the president appointed according to the Appointments Clause. In other words, they're taking different parts of the Constitution that describe different actions, putting them together and saying, well, look, if the president appoints here and this, and the president is not an officer because of this, then that means he's not an officer.
I do think, too, it's important to note when it says right at the end, but Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, to remove such disability, right? That was never done.
Right.
This has nothing to do with him being on the ballot. If he was truly an insurrectionist, he should have been brought to trial as such and been prosecuted as such. Just because you think he is does not mean that he is. You know, and dude, if you want to get really, really deep, given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. Didn't they just admit right now that they flew in like 300 and something thousand illegals into our country? Who's an enemy of the United States who breaks they're the ones who break the law.
Who single-handedly, 2 different times, 2 different presidents, single-handedly gave money to Iran, millions upon millions of dollars.
Oh.
Who we've determined are an official enemy of the United States. Who was it? What's it? Ababa? Is that his name?
President Obama.
And
President
Alabama?
Biden. And they used those things and military weapons that we just conveniently left behind, in all those places.
Yeah.
And admitted they used those weapons to go and attack Israel. Who's giving aid to the enemy here?
Where'd all those tanks and bombs go?
You could say Trump made enemies, but he wasn't giving money to them.
He wasn't
giving them weapons.
Billions of dollars of military equipment left overnight in the hands of the enemy that you're trying to flee from.
Oh, by the way, it's so nice that you use the insurrection thing, right? Like they used an insurrection thing on Trump. When the people in that Congress that were hiding for their lives are creating insurrection against the Americans every day of their lives. You're destroying the Constitution yourselves. And I found that people that throw accusations like that, you're doing it yourself.
Yeah.
You're insurrectionists in your own right. Nancy Pelosi, who benefits from trades, and then your husband and all these other, oh my gosh, you guys are disgusting. You're disgusting, Elizabeth Warner. You're disgusting, AOC. You guys are demonic, Ilhan Omar. It's demonic what's happening. And you're sitting here saying the American people are the insurrectionists when you're destroying the very Constitution they're seeking to stand for. That is called gaslighting. That's called gaslighting. It's, we will tell you what is right. Really? I thought this was America.
Isn't it funny how the sliding scale of right just so happens to correspond with what they want to do?
Right. You cannot lock people up in their homes because this was January 2020. You can't lock people up in their homes and then say to them after destroying their livelihoods, our economy just being destroyed, our GDP going crazy, interest rates skyrocketing, housing market skyrocketing, all these things. You can't do that and not expect people to rebel. And when people do rebel, you can't call them insurrectionists for you getting involved in their lives the way you shouldn't have done in the first place, according to the Constitution. That legit is seriously twisted. It's manipulation. You're narcissistic in your ability. You don't even understand how government is supposed to be run. You guys think that you're supposed to run it the way you want to and not according to the dictates of the Constitution, which you swear to uphold, and you can't even cite it right, CNN. That shows you how demonic they are.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm frustrated about it because men and women fought, bled, and died for that document, including our founders. Were they perfect men? No. But were they seeking to destroy the American system, the American way of, and then calling you a nationalist for believing the very foundation of the Declaration of Independence? Calling you some kind of nationalist as if that's a bad thing? No, it's called an American citizen. Every citizen needs to believe that we hold these truths to be evident. All men are created equal. All Trump did that day, all he did was say, hey, man, stand back. I'll give him that. He tweeted that. If he played something behind closed doors, then prosecute him.
In his speech, he flat out explicitly said, let's go down and peacefully let our voices be heard. Right? He said nothing about committing action against the building or the people inside. And this is what gets me is like, oh, it's insurrection. By your own definition, your own term, which, by the way, the 14th Amendment in Section 5 says the Congress shall have power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. In other words, it is Congress's job.
That's right.
And I think that's why the 5 said only Congress can legislate. because of that Section 5. Anybody who goes, well, there should be other methods. I have a hard time agreeing with you because in Section 5, it says it's Congress's job to pass legislation in order to handle these amendments or these sections in this amendment. What do you define as insurrection? Because as soon as it happened, as soon as January 6th happened, you know what they started using? The word insurrection. Why? Because they knew, and we pointed this out early on, they knew that word was useful because if they just call it a riot, well, we can't do anything to Trump. If we just call it a protest, we can't do anything to Trump. We have to call it an insurrection. You're looking at a completely different situation in the Civil War. You're looking at where states were attempting to secede from the Union and were fighting the federal government in order to do it. They chose to determine that as an insurrection. Now, my problem with that whole thing is they came out with this blanket 14th Amendment, and so then thousands of Confederates, ex-Confederates, sent in letters petitioning for amnesty from Congress. Congress granted it. Now, the organization who brought this whole thing against Trump, it's called CREW. Insane liberal extremists, right? They did this whole write-up about the Confederates, and they said they were never charged with insurrection, these ex-Confederates, and by them submitting letters for amnesty, admitted to insurrection. I think that's a really specious argument. I think what they were doing was they were covering their bases because Congress hadn't come out with anything of saying, okay, this is how we're going to prove you were a part of insurrection. Congress never said you get due process and we're going to prove through court or through congressional legislation that you were an insurrectionist. That's why I think the 14th Amendment is vague and was poorly enacted. Because you had the Postmaster General, you had the House of Reps, you had the Senate, you had state judiciaries all telling these Confederates that they're disqualified. There were only like 7 of them, 6 or 7 that actually got disqualified. And then CREW goes and uses an example of a J6er who they got through a court removed or disqualified, which I think was also wrong. I think that after this ruling, that previous politician should go and bring the case back to the courts and say, look, only Congress can handle this. You guys weren't supposed to handle this. Now, this guy, Noah Bookbinder, who's the goofball president of CREW, he said after the ruling, the fact that not a single justice today issued a single sentence disputing the finding that Donald Trump engaged in insurrection is incredibly telling. Yes, they let him off on a technicality, but there is no question that he is an oath-breaking insurrectionist. That was not the case, you dolt. I had many words. And thankfully, the right one
his lower lip twitched, and he was about to use a word, and the Lord said, "Don't say that," and he caught him.
The Holy
and the Lord
Spirit
was good
kept
to him,
me.
because that's Jesus.
The Holy Spirit kept me. That was not their case. That was not the case brought before them. The case was not to rule on whether Trump was an insurrectionist.
Which have been tried many times and still hasn't been brought to
It's never been brought.
Yeah, it's never been brought.
It's never been put into a court. Except for Georgia thing, which now immunity and that side of things, right? That's being put before the Supreme Court. This case was about whether or not Colorado had the right to remove him from the ballot. They would have actually done themselves a disservice by getting into the mess of whether or not Trump was an insurrectionist. It doesn't matter whether he's an insurrectionist or not. The fact remains, let's say he is. Let's say everybody agrees insurrectionist. The courts find insurrectionist. The Supreme Court case still matters of whether or not Colorado would have the right to remove him from the ballot or if Congress would have to do it or another method. That's what the case was about, Noah. It wasn't about his insurrection, and you are trying to put them on blast when in reality you know deep down that they would have made themselves look weak by putting that line in. But instead of trying to be a little unbiased in this whole thing, you go the full hog, right, with Keith Olbermann and decide, well, we're going to try and throw the pain at him.
Yeah.
This is why this political circus is so infuriating to me. It's so, and I'm not saying we're not biased in some sense. Sure.
I'm not.
Everybody's biased, even Massey.
No.
But I at least want truth. If Trump, the evidence comes out that he was texting and emailing with other officials saying, we're going to take this government, I don't care what the election says, it's ours, cool, get him. But what I don't like is that political opinion has replaced fact in any way, shape, or form.
It's a Alinsky tactic. I just decided to look it up just because I wanted to.
Go for it.
Rule 11, pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, polarize it. Don't try to attack abstract corporations and bureaucracies. Identify a responsible individual. Ignore attempts to shift or spread the blame. Put it all on Trump, right? That's really what they're doing.
Yeah.
And the more they can do that, and then here's another one. Let's see, a good tactic. Nope, that's not it. I'm sorry. He's got like all these. It's like, dang. Ridicule is the man's most potent weapon. It's hard to counterattack ridicule, and it infuriates the opposition, which then reacts to your advantage. When they go after ridiculing your guy, guess what you do? You react. Yeah. That's why we don't do that. That's why we're not like coming out and in a second and trying to defend Trump. That's what they and he also said in here, try to pick an opponent. When you pick an opponent, go after things he's not experienced in. Throws confusion. That's what they're doing. And you got to pay attention. They're trying to get you in a trap. Yeah. They're trying to paint us as this polarized thing, and we're not. And if people were just holding to the Constitution, you notice that the liberals only quote the Constitution when it's to their advantage.
Oh, yeah. And then they put in a lot of ... dots.
Yeah. It's about the Constitution, right? But Gwyneth Paltrow, if you don't remember, said give Obama any power he needs to get what he needs to get done. That's how they think.
You want a king.
You want a king, like other nations.
Yeah.
Dude, we are no different than the past. We think we're more civilized and advanced. Like, if evolution was truly billions of years old and this is the best we've got after billions of years, there's something messed up, y'all. Sin is in the heart of man, and it's been destroying man for years. We love oppression.
Yeah.
We love drama. We love complaining. We want someone to rule over us. It's easier that way. Remember the children of Israel? Let's go back to Egypt. It was easier. At least we had 3 hots and a cot. At least we were working like dogs, but at least I got food. I'm out in the wilderness by faith now in liberty, and I could do as I please under God. This is crazy. This is ridiculous. And I got to depend on God for my food and my finances and all these other things? Yeah. Yeah, that was the American experiment. That truly was the American experiment in its best ways, because nothing's perfect. Nope. And we're not even saying the American experiment was perfect.
Oh, a lot of problems.
But this is why we exist. This is why those other ministries we said exist before as well. This is why we do what we do. And that's why you need to give. Dang, that was lead. Text to give. What is that text to give option right now? This is the number? What's the number? Text to give?
772-242-0299. You text the word give to that number.
That's right. 772-242-0299. Dang, I nailed it. Also, theselfevidenttruth.com. Get on our blogs, get on our emails, subscribe. Hopefully you guys got something out of this. We will see you on Monday. We love you guys. God bless you. And thanks for tuning in. We absolutely love your subscriptions.
Absolutely.
And keep them coming.
Yeah. Love y'all.